Hello fellow adventurers, and welcome to this, the first ever episode of Mark's Gaming Odyssey. I'm Mark, and I'll be your host and guide on this journey through the world of video games. With Halloween just around the corner, what better place to begin our travels together than the small town of Little Hope? Little Hope is the second installment of the Dark Pictures Anthology, a series of interactive survival horror games developed by Supermassive Games following up the success of Until Dawn. Like its predecessors, Little Hope has players taking control of each of the main characters in turn as they explore their surroundings, hunt for clues to unravel the mystery of what is going on, and try to survive the night. The bulk of the gameplay in Little Hope centers around choices, typically between 2 or 3 different ways to respond to things said by another character. These choices determine the direction the narrative of your playthrough will go, as they will affect things down the line. In addition to the choice system, players will occasionally find themselves confronted with QuickTime events, usually when the characters are involved in more active scenarios. There's also a subset of these events where the character is hiding from something, and the player must press the correct button in time with the heartbeat monitor on screen. Personally, I have not played Little Hope before, but I have played both Until Dawn and the previous Dark Pictures installment, Man of Medan. In fact, the only thing I've seen from Little Hope was the trailer at the end of Man of Medan, so I'm eager to fire up the PS4 and see what's in store. The game begins with a lengthy cutscene showing a bus driver leaving a roadside diner and traveling down the road a bit before coming up to a police roadblock. Upon learning from the officer that traffic is being diverted through the town of Little Hope, the driver seems to be taken aback at first, but brushes it off as simply being concerned about getting his passengers where they need to be. The driver continues down the road for a little bit, when all of a sudden a girl pops up in the middle of the road, causing the driver to slam on the brakes and swerve, rolling the bus onto its side. We are then treated to another cutscene, this time at a family home. This home serves as the tutorial level for the game, teaching players how to use the dialogue choice system, as well as how to examine objects and hunt for secrets. After doing a little exploring and some more getting used to how the game works, a fire begins in the kitchen and quickly spreads to the rest of the house. Players watch as, one by one, the family members perish in various gruesome ways until only one, Anthony, is left. He watches in horror as the house burns down around him before rushing back inside. Players are then introduced to the curator, a man those familiar with the series will recognize as the facilitator of the game. He informs us that this particular story isn't fully complete and that it is our job to flesh it out. He reiterates the importance of choices, offers up some cryptic advice, and returns players back to the bus. We are introduced to the main characters, young college students Andrew, Taylor, and Daniel, mature student Angela, and their professor John. Strangely enough, these characters are doppelgangers of the characters met during the tutorial level. They begin to look for the driver, who somehow managed to disappear, and start to realize that something isn't quite right in the foggy, abandoned town of Little Hope. Throughout their adventures, the characters will find pictures that trigger premonitions of things that might happen, similar to how the totems worked in Until Dawn. As the story progresses, the characters learn more about the past as they experience flashbacks to the late 1600s, where the town of Little Hope experienced witch trials similar to those famous ones in Salem, Massachusetts. Players will again notice the resemblance these early Puritans bear to those of the protagonists. The gameplay continues in similar fashion until the very end, where it culminates in a twist worthy of M. Night Shyamalan. One of my biggest complaints about Little Hope, and indeed of all games similar in style, is how much the game is played for you. The game relies heavily on cutscenes, while most of the action is relegated to quick button presses as you watch the action unfold. I know that this is the nature of interactive games, but I would still prefer to be able to do a bit more for myself. I also was not a fan of the way the characters moved. I wouldn't describe them as tank controls, but movement definitely felt very awkward and not natural in the least. Characters seemed to walk at the speed of an average snail, with an option to walk faster that doesn't appear to me to make the slightest bit of difference. Another negative for me was the load screens. While not excessive in quantity or in length, I felt that they would pop up at inopportune and strange times. It seemed like I would finish a cutscene and take a few steps forward, only for a load screen to pop up. It would have kept me more immersed in the game if the load screen happened after the cutscene and before returning me to the game. Little Hope is also quite short. I was able to finish it in only a few hours. I have mixed feelings about the story of Little Hope. I thought the story itself was compelling enough. I found myself really enjoying the use of the different time periods and eager to find out what happened next. However, I was more interested in the story of the witch trials than I was in the present-day story. I think the reason for this is that I never felt fully attached to any of the characters. I'm sure that this was partly due to the length of the game. Being much shorter than Until Dawn, the writers were not able to spend as much time on character development, which led to me feeling indifferent towards the characters. While I didn't dislike any character enough to want to see them die, I didn't feel strongly enough to make sure they survived either. One problematic thing I noticed is that it is possible to miss collectibles. If you head the wrong way, you can wind up blocked out of an area and unable to finish exploring it. As such, I felt like it was easy to miss part of the story. Even after finishing the game, I'm not sure I fully understood it. In a game like Little Hope, where story is the most important thing, I shouldn't be allowed to leave an area until I have learned everything I need to know. One other thing I found interesting was the fact that all of the doppelgangers had names that begin with the same letters. For example, Professor John had his doubles in Father James in the 70s and Joseph from the 1600s. I didn't notice this until I was reviewing my footage for the video. However, knowing how the game ends, I do have to give kudos to Supermassive for this level of detail. Where Little Hope succeeds the most for me is in its atmosphere. Supermassive obviously know how to create an environment that puts players on edge, much like the characters are. Throughout the game I felt uneasy, and at times like I was being watched, even more so when I could see things moving behind the characters that they didn't see. Little Hope also uses fog and darkness to its advantage, hiding things from the player but in such a way that I never felt like it was too dark or too foggy. I also felt the actors did a wonderful job of maintaining the serious and dark tone without pushing it over the top and into the realm of camp. Another check in the plus column for me was the way the game would jump between characters involved in the heavy action scenes. If two characters were fleeing from something, odds are you got an opportunity to control both of them as they ran. This was something I didn't realize I was missing from other Supermassive games, but I hope it continues on in the next installments. I managed to finish my playthrough without a single character death. I believe that this was because of a change the developers made to the QuickTime events. In Man of Medan, the events would be sprung on you, and if you weren't paying attention, it was too easy to fail them. This time, players receive an advance notice that something is going to happen, in both the form of an icon on screen and a buzz from the controller. Little Hope is definitely a game that I will replay in the future, both to fill in things I think I missed, and because it was a fun game to play through. I will not be assigning games a score like other reviewers do, but I will tell you that, if you enjoy interactive or survival horror games, Little Hope is definitely worth experiencing for yourself. That'll be the conclusion for this stop on our tour. If you enjoyed the video, please like and share with your friends, consider subscribing to the channel, and most importantly, don't forget to join me at the next stop on our odyssey through video games. Until then, travel safe and game on.